Hey everybody, it's Mr. Winder here. I'm here to talk to you about boats and how boats went from little tiny rowboats to really big sailboats that got us all the way across from Europe to the Americas. So one of the first boats we're going to talk about is the Galley. The Galley was developed by the Greeks and the Romans. It was basically a giant rowboat, so they had hundreds of men that would row on the oars, and that's how it got from place to place. It did have some small sails, but it primarily was powered by manpower. After the fall of Rome in European history, we have what's called the Dark Ages. And the Dark Ages were characterized by a lack of basic knowledge, and people kind of stayed put. They didn't move around or explore very much. So most of the boats that they had during this time weren't very big. They were smaller boats that just carried a couple of people. They take them to go out and do a little bit of fishing, so they didn't carry a whole lot of cargo, and then they would come back to shore. So during the tail end of the Dark Ages, they developed a different boat. It's called the Longboat. It was a little bit longer, of course. It was able to carry more men and more cargo. Also had sails, which helped it to get from point A to point B faster, but still relied on people rowing it for the most part. So at the tail end of the Dark Ages, the Crusades happened. The Crusades were a long series of battles and wars between Europe and the Middle East. One of the good things that came about because of the Crusades, though, was that they were able to see ships from other areas and get ideas. They also needed to have bigger ships to carry their armies back and forth from Europe to the Middle East, so it made them more inventive. So one of the ships that was developed during this time was called the Carvel. It was a little bit like the clinker boat and the longboat mixed together, but with more sails, so that they could rely on the sails to get them from point A to point B, which required less work for the crew. So after the Dark Ages and the Crusades, then there were a lot of people that wanted to see more of the world. And so this began the age of exploration, where sailors wanted to see how far they could push their limits, and they also wanted to get rich. And the way to get rich was to find shorter routes between places of trading. So this led to the invention of the Caravel. The Caravel was a fast ship. It had what were called lateen sails. They were triangular shaped, and they could be adjusted with the wind so it could travel in any direction. Some of the disadvantages of the Caravel were it didn't carry very many people, and it didn't carry a lot of cargo. So as they sailed further and further, the voyages became longer and harder. And so this led to the development of the Carrack. The Carrack was a much larger ship. It could carry more crew, more cargo, and this meant that the merchants and the sailors could get richer quicker. So the Caravel was a light, quick ship with lateen sails that could sail anywhere it wanted to, but it didn't have very much cargo space. The Carrack, on the other hand, had a lot of cargo space, but it was big and bulky, and its square sails meant it had to sail with the wind. So what your job is now is to take the good characteristics of both of those boats and see if you can put them together and make a ship that's better than both of them.